Hi, welcome to episode 249 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Twitter and Instagram. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns, and we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? I hope that you are having a lovely week. It is Monday, October 7th, and I hit the ground running this morning with lots to do. It is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've only now just sat down to record the podcast. So I hope that you have had a crafty week and weekend. Fall hit us late last week. On Thursday and Friday, it was rainy and chilly and absolutely wonderful. It's gone back up a little bit. It's in the 70s today, but on Friday, the high is going to be 49 degrees Fahrenheit, so it will be nice and chilly. Fall has settled in, and with it has come my desire to knit everything. Of course, I have all kinds of obligation knits on the list, gifts and sample knits and all kinds of things, so I have not been able to cast on with abandon quite as much as I want. But I do have some fun things to show you this week and talk a little bit about my knitting. I'll get to it. My knitting nightmares and such. So last week was not super busy, but kind of a quiet week for me. Over the weekend, we went to see The Joker, which is a new movie about the Joker from Batman. Not for the faint of heart. It was quite well done, but it is quite a disturbing movie, so don't go unless you're prepared for that. I kind of agreed to go before I really thought about it, and I had an okay time, but it was definitely intense. And then yesterday we went out for Cajun food with some friends, and I have all kinds of things coming up in the next few weeks. My husband is doing a variety of different runs around the country, and so we are going places. He is doing one relay run on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and I am actually driving a van for that. And then he is also going to be doing the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington, D.C. So we're going to be there very briefly. And so I'm just kind of packing all my knits with me everywhere we go and working every spare second I can so that we can travel a little bit. So that is what's going on here. Let's talk about all the things that I'm knitting and drinking and yeah. So today I am drinking from Harney & Sons Blueberry Green Tea. Harney & Sons is out of New York, and they have some really nice teas. It doesn't say specifically what is in here, although it does have the correct way to brew black tea, green tea, and herbals on the side. But like I said, this is Harney & Sons Blueberry Green. It is loose leaf. You can see a little bit, well, if I open it and manage to not, I really put that back on there. You can see a little bit of the blue corn flowers in there and some of the tea. It smells delicious and it brewed up deliciously as well. I am drinking in my tentacle mug today, which is like my new favorite mug. I won't bring it every week, but I do love it, and that is by Semi-Cool Ceramics on Etsy. So that is a good one. Nice fruity mid-afternoon pick-me-up. So let's talk about the knits. I actually have two finished knits to show you. They are small, but I wanted to show you. First off, I finished Roxy's hat. Now, the pattern for this is the March hat. It is by Megan Babin of Kelburn Woolens, and it is from their Year of Hats patterns, which is to celebrate their new, well, it's not their newest yarn now, but their worsted Aran weight yarn, Germantown, which is 220 yards to the skein. I used it actually in my last project, and so they are publishing a year of free hat patterns. So if you are looking for good hat patterns, there are 9 out now, and there will be 3 more, and they have everything from cables to baubles to textured stitches, and this one is kind of a diamond textured stitch. It was, at first I did the first few rows and I was like, wow, this is a lot of work for not much pattern, but then it popped and I was super happy. So let's talk about my modifications. First of all, I was using DK weight as opposed to worsted weight, so I changed needle sizes. I believe the original needle sizes call for a US 5 and 7 or 6 and 8, somewhere around there. I used a US 3 and a US 5. The ribbing on the brim called to be, I think, either 3 or 4 inches so that it was a wide double brim, and I think it called for provisional cast on so you could do the double-edged. I did not. I did about 2 inches of a 1x1 rib and then went into the pattern stitch, and the other thing that I did was I slightly lessened the stitch count because it is for a 6-year-old and the hats are written in a couple sizes, but for like small and large adult sizes. If I had it to do over, I'd probably do slightly less ribbing and slightly more pattern, because I think the dimensions are a little bit off, but I didn't want to make it super, super slouchy for Roxy. The hat has some really quick gathers up top, so it is kind of scrunchy up top, which I don't mind. I am planning to put a pom-pom on this hat. I just need to knit her matching mittens first so that I know exactly how much I have left for the pom-pom. So I guess it's not 100% done, but all the knitting is done. And now I just need to knit her some mittens, and I'm thinking about using Tin Can Knit's Simplest Mitten pattern and then incorporating this stitch on the back of the hands for the mittens so that they will match. So I'm really pleased with that. It was a super quick knit once I sort of got the pattern in my head, and I really like the way it turned out. I really do like that diamond texture. So that is the first knit that I finished, and I had showed you that last week. It was just kind of an on the side thing that I was working on. I remembered after we met last week that my husband's, I guess he's not my husband's boss anymore. Now he's my husband's coworker, and they've been at the company about the same length of time, so they're good friends. My husband's coworker and his wife are expecting a new little baby. It's their third, and I have knit for the 2 others, and they're due sometime this month. I don't know exactly when, and I was like, oh goodness, I forgot that I wanted to knit something. So I went looking for a pattern, and I had a whole bunch I bought on D-Stash a while ago. It was like a priority mailbox shoved full of baby wool from Dale Garn, and it is 100% wool, and it's roughly a fingering weight, although I think it knits up just slightly thicker than that. And I had it in all kinds of colors, but I specifically used the green and the white for this project. And again, I made some modifications to a pattern, so let's talk about it. I knit French Macaroon by the Noble House, which is a really simple garter stitch baby sweater, and it's meant to look a little like macaroons or macarons, although it is spelled macaroon with 2 O's. So it's French Macaroon by the Noble House, and it is meant to be done in 2 colors, with the body of the sweater in one color and then the top in another color, and then you just kind of add just a little bit right at the very top of the shoulders. This is a super simple garter stitch sweater that is knit in 2 pieces. Basically, you knit a front and a back, and they are almost identical, except that the back has a little flap, a little sort of button flap, which allows you to kind of open the neck up a little bit more because babies have big heads. And so there's a cute little button flap, and I actually had 1 extra, let's see if I could, there we go. I had 1 extra little elephant button in my collection from a previous baby knit, so I thought that was kind of the perfect finish to it. So let's talk about the sweater. The sweater is meant to be knit in DK weight yarn, and I used fingering weight held doubled. So what I did is I went up and needle size, and then I did some math to see where I was going to end up at, and I ended up knitting the newborn size, and I came out pretty true to size with the numbers for the DK weight. So that part came out just fine. The sweater itself is a little bit dense. I probably should have gone up another needle size or 2 because, like I said, even though it's fingering weight, I find that it knits up a little bit denser than that, and I have found that because I've done some socks for Roxy and Miles, and they knit up a little bit more like sport weight to me. So I probably should have gone up because this is quite the dense little sweater here, and so I think it will be fine. I need to wash it. It's flexible. I mean, it's not going to stand up on its own 2 feet, but it is a little bit denser than I probably would have liked. It's okay because it's going to be an October baby, and if it's the end of October, beginning of November, it's going to be really chilly here, so I think this will be fine. And honestly, he won't wear it for super long because, you know, newborn babies outgrow things. So, like I said, it's knit in 2 pieces. I made a couple modifications. The first modification is that it wanted you to do a 3-needle bind off at the top of the sleeves, and I found that when I did the 3-needle bind off, it didn't want to lie flat, and it just created like a really bulky seam there. And so what I actually did is I went ahead and I reversed Kitchenered it. Basically, I Kitchenered it from the wrong side because the garter stitch is on the correct side, so I have an extra little ridge there, but it makes the knit lay really flat, and I liked that, so it emphasized the top there. I think that was the only big modification that I made. If I did it again, I'd be tempted to either knit it in the round or perhaps knit it in a T, because other than the kind of the back, I think it could be knit just like that, because basically you knit it in 2 pieces, and then you it wants you to 3-needle bind off, but I Kitchenered the sleeves, and then it just has you do this the T here. So I think I could probably knit it all in 1 piece rather than having multiple pieces, and then just do the T seaming. I also think in the future, if I were to do it again, I might make the neck just a little bit wider. I'm hoping that this is going to be big enough, but babies have really big heads, and so I'm hoping that this is going to work out okay. So all in all, I'm pretty pleased with it. It looks like I might have missed a stitch there, but oh well. It's not loose, it just looks like I missed something there. So I'm pretty pleased with it, and I probably could have done a few things differently. I'll probably go back and knit it again because it is a super cute sweater, so I just need to block that today and then get that in a gift bag off to where it's going. But like I said, it is a pretty thick little sweater, and hopefully it will keep their little one warm. They are having their 3rd boy, so I'm sure life is about to get adventurous for them. So overall, I used I think almost 3 balls, 50 grams, 150 grams, I think 150, 200 grams. I think total I used about 300 yards, but it was held doubled, so I actually used 600 yards. So it is a pretty dense little thing here, but it's super cute. So yeah, samples. So I told you that I had 2 samples to knit this month. I still have not cast on for the second sample, unfortunately. The one I can show you, because we were waiting for some size clarifications. I just got those today, so I will be casting that on this week, so I will have that to show you next week. I do have a fun little story about the sample that I can't show you. So just so you know that I'm not infallible, I spent last week working on the front of the, I'm knitting a sweater. I'm not going to tell you any details about it, but I'm knitting it's a sample sweater. And I spent last week knitting the front of the sweater, and I got to the top, where there's a little bit of lace detailing, and I went to knit the lace, and I didn't have enough stitches. And I went back and counted, and sure enough, I did not have enough stitches. Somewhere along the way, I got off in my stitch count, and I had to rip the entire front of the sweater. So part of the reason we went to the movies this weekend was because Wes was like, I know you need to knit a lot. Can you knit in the dark? Is this something you can knit in the dark? So I counted my stitches multiple times, and then I went to the movies, and I'm basically back now where I was when I had to rip on Friday. But so that will be an interesting adventure for this week. That sample is working up nicely both times, but hopefully now that I have the right stitch count, it will be more successful this time. So that set me back a few days. I always feel like I'm sort of playing catch up and running around after my tail with samples sometimes, especially when I mess them up. So let's hope I don't do that again. The other thing that I put a few rows in on this week that I will show you, and then I probably won't do it again this week because I have a bunch of other things I need to do, but because I was sort of killing time waiting for the second sample, I also put some more work in on my boxy. And I've talked about this a few times. This is Epoxy by Joji Locatelli. I am knitting the original version, which is a scoop neck. I chose to knit it in one piece. The other mods that I made were that the original pattern calls for approximately 30 inches of positive ease, and that was way too much for me. So I went and looked at one of my favorite oversized sweaters that had about 14 or 15 inches of ease, and I cast on so that I would have that. So basically right now it is just a long stockinette tube. Last time I checked, which was probably a couple inches ago, I was at about 10 or 11 inches, and I need 16 before I split for the front and back. The yarn that I am using is, do I have the tags in here? I do. It is Woolly Wonka Fibers Gaia Sock, which is 100% superwash merino. It is a single, and it's 400 yards per 100 grams, and the colorway is mulberry. So that is Woolly Wonka Fiber, and I am really, really enjoying this knit. I have not spent a lot of time on it, but I do really enjoy it. It's nice at the end of the day to sit down and work on it, and pretty soon I'll be splitting, and so things will get interesting. I am on my second ball. I happen to know that this batch was dyed all together because it actually was a custom order. So I am not alternating balls. What I am doing is I'm working through each ball, and then I am alternating when I get close to the change. So alternating like 10, 15 rows when I get close to the changeover between balls. This is what I have left of the second ball, and I still have the third and fourth. The original pattern calls for about 2,000 yards in my size, but I am hoping that by decreasing the positive ease that I will be okay with the 1,600 yards I have. If I am not, the sleeves will be a little shorter, or I'll figure out something else to do. I would love to get this one done by the end of the year. This was on my Make 9, and I will not be finishing my Make 9 just because I have so many other things going on, but I would love to finish this one. So this is still on the roundy list for when I need to grab a project. However, this week is going to be devoted to the 2 sample knits, and then I need to start on some mittens for Roxy. So those 3 things are what I will mostly be working on this week, and hopefully be able to show you some progress on those for next week. So let's talk about spinning. There has not been a lot of spinning here this week. I chose to focus on knitting, and since now I had to do some re-knitting, I suspect this week will be much the same. However, I did finish the singles of what I was spinning last. This is 8 ounces of singles from Crown Mountain Farms. It is in the colorway Stonehenge, which is very moody. It is blues and greens and some grays and a little bit of purple, and this is a full bobbin, and I spun fairly thin, so I suspect it's going to take me quite a while to ply. And I haven't decided yet. Originally, I thought I might put this up in the shop, and a friend suggested that maybe I keep it for myself and knit something that reminds me of Stonehenge, and I can't decide. So, this one I am going to mull over. I think I'm going to take it off the bobbin tonight. I usually wind into a center ply ball and ply from there, and so hopefully I'll get some plying done this week or next weekend, and get this one off the wheel. Which means I picked out my next spin. My next spin is going to be actually a pretty popular one that came out earlier this year, although I think it works for either spring or fall colors. This is called Bee Eater, and it is, I can't remember what the bird is. This was sort of the end of the this is Hello Yarn Club, and this is sort of the end of her year of birds, and it was a little bird that she called it Bee Eater, and I don't know if that's because they actually eat bees or if they hang out with the bees or whatnot. It was April's club colorway, so like I said, technically it was a spring colorway. It is greens and yellows and pinks, but I also think it could actually be fall colorways, like as the leaves start to change. This is in Tarhi, which is amazingly fluffy and one of my favorite things to spin. And actually the interesting thing is, as I was winding it up, usually the fiber is compacted a little bit, but this one is like all spread out. It is all nice and not dense, and I'm very, very happy with it. I really don't know how I'm going to spin it yet. My guess is probably a fractal, and this one will definitely end up in the shop. So if you like these kind of greeny, yellowy, pinky colors, either that are spring or maybe a little bit of fall, I will be spinning this up, and this will definitely be for the shop. I won't be second guessing this one. So this will be next on my wheel. Like I said, Hello Yarn Bee Eater. So that is what I've got going on. I'm spending lots of time thinking about knitting. I saw in the next issue of the Amarisu magazine, which is a Japanese knitting magazine that they also publish in the States, in English, I saw there is a beautiful sweater in there, and I am so enamored of it, and I can't remember what, I think it's called Escala? I think it's the Escala sweater. I am waiting for that issue to hit the local yarn store, or if not, I'm just going to go ahead and order one because the pattern is beautiful. It is kind of an oversized sweater with cabling, and it is meant to be done in an Aran or bulky weight. And I have Aran yarn from a project that I ripped this year. It was the sweater that I wasn't even wearing. And now I'm thinking I might make that my Nanny Swaymo project, because November is coming, and that means National Knit a Sweater Month is coming. And even though it will definitely not be enough stitches, Nanny Swaymo is one of the groups that I moderate, and it is mocked after NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month, which encourages you to write a novel of 50,000 words or more in the month of November. Nanny Swaymo is the brainchild of Shannon Oakey, who is Knit Girl and the genius behind Cooperative Press. And she came up with the idea that knitters should have their own challenge, and so we should try and knit sweaters worth 50,000 stitches in the month of November. The group is gearing up for Nanny Swaymo, and to be eligible for prizes, you do need to knit 50,000 stitches. However, since I'm a moderator, I'm never eligible for prizes anyway, so my plan is to knit a sweater whether it qualifies or not. And to be clear, anyone is welcome to knit any sweater in the group, whether or not it qualifies. It's just that for prize drawings, we do have generous prize donors, and so for prize drawings, we do require that your sweater be 50,000 stitches. And I had been anticipating knitting a fingering weight sweater, a little black sweater. I was going to do Girls Night Out by Joji Locatelli, but this other one has really caught my eye, and now I can't decide, and maybe I'll do both even though I don't have time. So yeah, that's what I've got going on. I hope that you have had a lovely week. If you were new and this was your first time, I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Next episode will be episode 250, and I'm working on putting together a prize for a giveaway in episode 250, so definitely come back and see me again. And if you are a regular subscriber, thanks for joining me again today. I hope I didn't talk your ear off, and I hope you are enjoying your crafting season and doing some lovely things. I will say until I see you next time, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next week. Bye.